what Jesus really looked like, and he wasn't just a carpenter, he was a handyman. Okay, I want you all to go with me back in time to the year CE, Common Era 30, when Jesus started his ministry. That way you can have an understanding of what I'm trying to say in this video. Now let me pull the lever, push the buttons. Okay, do it again. Something's it's not working, man. Forget it. Well, you guys know what I mean. Think you're in the year CE 30 with me, and we're seeing Jesus as a young man when he's just starting his ministry. You hear that music in the background? It's funny because that's how Jesus started his ministry. Before we get to the important part of this, kind of boring, theology stuff, I want to start like Jesus. He brought the community together like family, party, and everybody accepted each other. It was celebratory. That's what Jesus was like, So let me begin this video with a celebratory atmosphere, attitude, so you can enjoy it and learn from it. Now you want to know what's good news about Jesus is good news? It's easy. It's fun. All Jesus did was to bring the community together like family. And that's how he presented his theology, his jubilee, the good news. He was always drinking wine. That's why they call him a wine bibber and a glutton. He was partying it up, man. That's the way we should do it. That's the way you should start to present the good news. But don't have ulterior motives. Just do it because you want to share it with them. Life, love. That's why I took my Bible apart. Here's the Old Testament. Here are the epistles. And here's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the Gospels. And I've taken them apart into the beginning and the end. Now, I'm going to take the end of the Gospel in Acts and put it with epistles and put them in the future. Because that's when Jesus started talking anything about him dying for any reason, paying for sins, imputed righteousness. He did not preach that at the beginning. So I'm going to put this 3 years in the future to his last week when he did talk about dying. And I'm not telling you not to preach that Jesus talked about him dying or the apostles talked about him dying. I'm not telling you to stop preaching that. No, you keep doing it. But you got to add something that you're missing. Since my time machine from Amazon's not working, I'm going to use the wormhole that I got and walk it into the future. Now, let's put it in the future. Now, before I continue, I'm going to sit at this table for 3 years because I want you to stay focused in these first 3 years of Jesus' ministry. I wanted you to feel the message, not just hear it. Can you do that with me? Can you sit here for 3 years? Because that future and the end of Jesus' ministry isn't going to happen until 3 years. You see what I'm saying? Let's go to the beginning of Jesus' gospel, his ministry. He took the book of Isaiah and he says, I come to announce the year of the Lord's favor, which is to delete monetary debts and make heaven and earth in Jesus' day. And in modernized terms, it means to lower the price of milk, rent, living, cost of living. What Jesus was proclaiming and announcing, the Living Bible says it beautifully. For the 50th year should be holy, a time to proclaim liberty throughout the land to all enslaved debtors, and a time for all canceling of all public and private debts. It should be a year when all family estates sold to others shall be returned to the original owners or their heirs. What a happy year it would be. In it you should not sow nor gather crops nor grapes, for it is a holy year of jubilee for you. Jesus proclaimed this. And then he said in his prayer, which is an objective, that kingdom come, that will be done on earth in my day, delete debts. And then John said to Jesus, are you the one to come, or should we look for another? And Jesus says, the dead are raised. He didn't call that good news. The blind can see, the sick are healed, and the good news is preached to the poor. What's going to be good news for the poor people? They're not going to be poor anymore. They're going to get their inheritance. They're going to get their piece of land. That's what he sent the 72 out to do. And that's why when he told them, don't take nothing, because those who are going to hear this gospel, which is the good news, to delete that, to make heaven and earth through the Messiah Jesus, are going to participate and give you your things. So don't take no sandal, no tunic or nothing. And if those peoples in those towns don't participate and accept the Jubilee, take off your sandals, wipe the dirt as a testimony against them. All the parables point to this. The workers, were hired. The one who got the last hour to work, he got the same pay. Jesus says, sell everything, come follow me. Zacchaeus, the tax collector, initiated it and got blessings from Jesus. So Jesus' gospel, all his teachings point to this heaven and earth, eternal jubilee here right now. If Jesus talked about himself dying at the beginning of his ministry, why didn't they understand it at the end of the ministry? Now here's a timeline so you can have a historical perspective of what I'm talking about. Now pause the video, turn it whichever way you have to. The Messiah is going to die? What are you talking about? Then he's not the Messiah. So to prove that he was the Messiah and he was eternal, Jesus did whatever it takes, like Captain America. He took the bullet for country and he died. And the resurrection proved that he is eternal, because a person that cannot stay dead can only end up living forever. And they said after the resurrection, he is eternal, he is the Messiah, so let's do what he's telling us to do. And they started doing it. And if you want to jump into the future, in Acts chapter 5, all the people sold their homes, brought the money and gave it to the apostles' feet, and they distributed to everyone, and no one had need for anything because they were doing the Jubilee, heaven on earth. And that's why Jesus died, to attain a resurrection. He was raised for our justification. He was raised to justify his messiahship. And on the day of Pentecost, the resurrection gave meaning to the death, not the other way around as Christianity has it. So why don't you Christians preach the Jubilee? I know you're tempted to go get the end of the Gospels and the epistles, try to point out that Jesus died, said he was going to die. Yeah, I get it. But those events written in those documents hadn't even occurred yet in CE 30, CE 31, CE 32, or even CE 33 until the last month or last week, close to Jesus' death. I'm just trying to put everything in perspective. The problem lies in Christianity's hermeneutics. They don't know how to use the historical critical method to read the Bible historically, like I learned from Verdict Publications and my predecessor, Robert D. Brinsby. Now, this is why I've changed and I understand things differently now. But why are you afraid to preach what he also preached, which is hands-on communication with people, loving people? That's what you're afraid of. So you'd rather preach something that's just a statement or some formula. All that theological rhetoric didn't come from Jesus. It came from theologians in the future, like the Apostle Paul too. All that theological rhetoric from the future is not the gospel, it's not sufficient, and it doesn't save you. About the imputed righteousness of Christ, or he died in atonement and all that, that's easy. But loving each other and deleting debts and working together to make heaven and earth, that's harder. That's why you avoid it. And that was Ananias and Sapphira's problem. They lied to the spirit of the Jubilee. Now I want to make something clear. The sin wasn't vertical towards God. It was horizontal to the harmony of everyone doing it together. And some pastors and preachers like Joel Osteen, they're like domestic predators gaslighting their members. And they put fear in them, that the fear that the people had was God put the plug because they weren't giving the money to the building, the church. No, they weren't giving the money that was distributed to the people, which is the church. We are the church. The people are the church. And 3,000, 4,000 people became converted and they disbanded. Because when the demon-possessed man went to Jesus and said, I want to follow you, Jesus could have said, yeah, that's a good idea. I can make a mega church right here. He said, nah, I'm not looking for a multiple people. Just stay home and tell them how great God's been to you. They kept some of the money and they ruined the harmony of everybody doing it together. It's all or nothing. And God pulled a plug on them and killed them. And that's why we keep dying. In fact, it's the main reason why we die. But we can stop death if we go back to the Jubilee. This is the good news. And in fact, this is in Revelations. So let's do it. They had heaven within their grasp, but they lost it. They turned their backs on the sacred command to love one another, and especially the Jubilee. If you want muscles, you have to work it and you have to eat right. That's what heaven is like. So they turned their backs on that, and in the second coming, if we don't keep it, we'll lose it again forever. We'll still lose it even if we're glorified. Wasn't Satan glorified and he still had the free will to go against God? Or Adam and Eve, weren't they perfect and they still had the freedom to reject that heaven they were in? So no more milk, solid food, and let's stop being cowards to love. Jesus said, those who believe in me and do what I say will never die. Did they die? Well, they didn't believe in him because they didn't do what he said to do. And when you're dead, you're dead. Shield the grave. You're not going to sidestep God's judgment and go to a better place, or even go to purgatory or hell or limbo. No, none of that Gnostic garbage. And this generation is going to die if we don't start doing it. So I'm going to go back to Jesus' 3-year ministry of what he really preached. And I want you Christians to do the same thing, and we can change this world.